Good afternoon, and welcome to an overview of Creative Commons licensing. I'm your librarian, Johanna White, OER and Instruction Librarian here at Baton Rouge Community College. Copyright is a subject that makes people uneasy, mostly because it's complicated and the consequences can be costly, both to your wallet and your reputation. However, today I won't be talking about traditional forms of copyright, but what is called openly licensed or Creative Commons permissions. These are a legal addendum to the copyright an author may have. Now, to clear up any potential confusion, I will not be talking about items that are published and distributed through a commercial publisher, the kind of application of copyright laws that most of us think of first. The situation I address today concerns authors or creators of content that are not conventionally published or distributed by commercial means. But, thanks to the power of the internet, these can be self-published and shared online for the maximum benefit of the greatest number of users and readers. So let's say that I'm a faculty member in a biology department, and I use a conventionally published textbook. It has quizzes provided at the end of every chapter, but I discover that I don't find them useful for my course. I then create my own quizzes that I use. If I self-publish or share these items online where other faculty can use them, I can add an open license or Creative Commons license to these quizzes to accomplish several important things. I assert that I am to be identified as the author and therefore maintain a link to my intellectual output or property, and that I can define how my property is to be shared or used. Now, Creative Commons is a 20-year-old project originally founded by Lawrence Lessig, a Harvard lawyer and professor of law. In terms of traditional copyright privileges, he saw a gap in this intellectual framework. What of the intellectual work that is not conventionally published? Normally, a commercial publisher offers the author a contract in which many of the rights to the output are transferred to the publisher. The rights to modify, sell for profit, distribute in mass quantity, and make derivative works from the original, these are rights usually held by a commercial entity, not by the original creator, much to the dismay of many faculty. We've become so used to these ideas, practices, that we are all aware of them, but we've basically forgotten or never even learned what we can do with our intellectual property outside of this commercial framework. Creative Commons licenses, or open licenses, help authors who self-publish or share assert their rights in how their work can and cannot be used. There are 6 varieties of license that can be applied to self-published work. We'll review them in the order of the amount of freedom granted to the licensee. Each of the licenses we'll go over uses a specific combination of features: attribution, or the right to be identified as the creator of a work; derivation, or the right of a user of your work to modify or remix your content, structure, or style; commercial rights, whether or not you, the creator, would allow someone else to use your work for profit; and lastly, the license share feature, called the share-alike feature. This allows you, the creator, to stipulate all future licensing of any use or derivative of your work. Now on to the licenses. The first one is the most broad. This is attribution, or you asserting your right to be identified as the author or creator of a particular piece of work. Here I will borrow from the Creative Commons directly. Attribution, or a CC BY license, lets others distribute, remix, adapt, and build upon your work, even commercially, as long as they credit you for the original creation. This is the most accommodating or free of the licenses offered. This is recommended for the maximum dissemination and use of your licensed materials. This is the broadest one, also the most common. The next one is called Attribution Share-alike, or CC-BY-SA as it's abbreviated, and these are the logos that go ahead that identify these kinds of licenses. This license lets others remix, adapt, and build upon your work, even for commercial purposes, as long as they credit you and license their new creations under identical terms. This is what's meant by share-alike. This license is often compared to the copyleft or free and open source software licenses. All new works based on yours will carry the same license, so any derivatives will also allow commercial use. This is the license used by Wikipedia, for example, and is recommended for materials that would benefit from incorporating content from Wikipedia or similarly licensed projects. The next type of license, number 3, is attribution but no derivatives. This license lets others reuse the work for any purpose, including commercially. However, it cannot be shared with others in adapted form, and credit must be provided to you, hence the logo next to it. The fourth variety is Attribution Non-Commercial, or CC-BY-NC as its abbreviation. This license lets others remix, adapt, and build upon your work non-commercially, and although their new works must also acknowledge you and be non-commercial, they don't have to license their derivative works on the same terms, right? That would require a share-alike clause. And the last two licenses are Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike. This license lets others remix, adapt, and build upon your work non-commercially, as long as they credit you and license their new creations under identical terms. And the last one is Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives, and this is the most restrictive of all licenses. So as this one is the most restrictive, it only allows others to download your works and share them as long as they credit you, but they cannot change them in any way or use them commercially. So that is a quick overview of what licenses are available to you as an author of original content, sharing it online, be it in a platform like OER Commons, being it on your own personal website, being it on a repository like merlot.org. All these collect open materials that faculty have created so that other faculty could benefit from them. Locally, we have access to Canvas Commons, which is a terrific place to share your work so that other people here at BRCC can find it. A couple things to note. As you, the creator, decide on what and how you'd like to share your work, it may be helpful to use the Creative Commons License Picker tool. So if you go to their website, there's a link that says License Picker, License Chooser. It asks you a series of questions about how you'd like your work to be used or not used, and points you to the appropriate license. As you can see, these licenses proceed from the freer to the more restrictive, and Creative Commons licensing can easily stand in for traditionally published or copyrighted materials and offers creators a similar amount of security for their intellectual property. And as a side note, always remember that for a license marked share-alike, that any use of that license requires the same license, credit to the original author, and the use of the logo and link to the CC license. So you can see the logos here that I've included. These are freely available on the Creative Commons website. You would want to grab the license and the link that you can embed in it. You can either steal their embed code and put it on your website, or you can use the link that links back out to the original text of the legal deed, so that users will be aware of how your license works. And as you can see from my opening slide, I marked this presentation as CC-BY. All I'm asking for in this case is to be credited as the originator of this presentation. If someone takes it, uses part of it, adds their own material to it, and then uses it for their own presentation, that's no problem. The section with the borrowed material just gets an attribution and a CC logo and link. For academics, this comes as second nature to give credit where credit is due. Bonus, it's even easier than learning a citation style. And this concludes our overview of Creative Commons licensing. If you have questions about choosing or using a Creative Commons license, feel free to contact me at whitej2@mybrcc.edu. Thank you and have a great day.